We often admire people's successes, but never take the time to explore their challenges. Talk to Lady brings out the inside stories of the peaks and valleys of our daily struggles. A weekly show that features people and stories from all walks of life.
I probably don't look like I chopped cotton or picked cotton, but I did. And now, this is a $500,000 probably home, up to $500,000 home.
You'll hear success stories from rags to riches that will inspire you to aspire to be great. Be the first to know, but only on Big A TV.
Hello, our darling viewers. It's your girl, Lady Ba, and this is your Talk to Lady show coming to you live on Big A TV. And today I have a special guest, a Gambian. I call him Global because he's a supernatural. Let me just leave it at that. Saikou Camara, a Gambian born, and today he's our special guest on Talk to Lady. Don't go anywhere. Stay with us because you will learn a lot from this guy. Saikou, I will let you say your greetings to our viewers and welcome to Talk to Lady show.
Thank you, lady. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here with you today. Thank you very much for having me. We've been trying to get this show happen for quite a while. I remember we started talking about it way back in 2018, right?
Correct, yes.
It's been like about 2 years for us to get it done finally. So I'm honored and humbled to be here. So thank you very much for having me.
I am very happy and grateful that you accepted our invitation to be here. Thank you so much for being here today. Saikou, let's start with your background. Who is Mr. Saikou Camara? Like school you attended, where you grew up from? Just a brief background about yourself for those that do not know who Mr. Saikou Camara is.
Grew up in West Africa, the Gambia. I was born in Banjul, Tobacco Road, 47th of Sidembe Street.
Wow.
Yeah, but I was raised in Old Joshua. Attended Albion Primary School, then went to Gambia Methodist Academy where I did my high school before I came to the US. And I went to Ross College where I did my undergrad in computer science, and I went to Jackson State University and I did my master's in computer science as well. So that's the educational background as far as Saikou is concerned.
Nice, thank you. And if I'm correct, you are an engineer by trade. Is that correct?
Yes, I earn my paycheck through an engineer, and I'm a consultant now in the rail industry, positive trade control in corporate America.
Wow, awesome. Yeah. Well, let's share the check. I'm sure the money is coming in, huh?
I use that word very relatively because I don't like to say earning a living. Right? That's why I said I earn a paycheck. I don't earn a living through working. I earn a living through serving. So.
Gotcha. So then, where did the passion of writing came from?
I feel like we all have a story to tell. Every human being in this world, no matter where you come from, no matter your circumstance, no matter what you've been through, we all have a story to tell. And if you don't tell your story, somebody will absolutely tell your story for you. And it is, if you remember, if you go way back in the 60s, which was Patrice Lumumba who said that the history of Africa will one day be written by Africans, and it will not be history in Brussels, Washington, weeks. It will be a story of dignity and pride. So this is why I think it is a responsibility duty on every African, on every young African, no matter what medium or platform you can use, to tell our own stories. I have read a lot of things about our culture. I have read a lot of things about our people, but more often than not, it comes from people who don't look like or sound like us or understand or have the same empathy towards our people. So that's why I decided that, okay, if anybody's going to do it, I'm going to make sure I tell my own story from my own perspective.
And there's a saying that says, speak your truth and stand your ground. I mean, it's your story. If you don't say it, like you said, nobody else can tell your story. So right. I heard that you like to be addressed as Mr. Camara instead of Saikou Camara. Can you tell us a bit about why? Because I'm interested in that story.
So that's another, that is also a little bit out of context. That came from a place of soberness. That came from a place of inspiration and a place of self-reflection and dignity. That story was told in my first book, The Testimony of an African Immigrant. And by the
Mm-hmm.
way, if you haven't picked it up, it's on Amazon, Testimony of an African Immigrant. It's A Promise to My Father. And that is
Mm-hmm.
a storyline there. What happened was, it was in my third grade, I believe. I went to a parent teacher meeting with my dad, and
Mm-hmm.
my third grade teacher was standing at the school gate and was welcoming and greeting parents and students as they walked through the gate, the school gate, the compound gate.
Mm-hmm.
And she was addressing everybody as Mr. and Mrs. as they walked through the compound gate. But when my dad got there, she just little carelessly just said, "Hey, Camara." So she just addressed my dad as Camara. Everybody else was like, "Hey, Mr. Camara. Hey,
Right.
Mr. Cisse. Hey, Mr. Job." Everybody has that formal salutation, and my
Mm-hmm.
dad was just Camara. So I kind of took I wouldn't say offense, but I was kind of a little bit not. I was young, but I still understand that there was something not right about this picture. And I was almost disappointed in my dad, because at that point I was like, this man can do no wrong. He's the greatest man I ever met in this world. He's my superhero. He's everything. And every child in this world, boy or girl, would like to grow up and believe that their dad is the greatest human being God ever created, right?
Right.
So,
Mm-hmm.
but that was the first time I literally saw mortality through my father's eyes. So when we were going home after the meeting, I was just angry inside. I just felt this anger and bitterness inside me. And my dad held my hand, and we were walking home. We live in Tobacco Road, like I said earlier,
Mm-hmm.
walking from Albion Primary School, right? We just kind of close to St. Mary's Primary School and Albert Market and all those banks, trust banks, and all in
Right.
the area. And as we were walking, I just yanked my hand from his hands, and he looked at me and asked me in Mandinka, like, "What's wrong with you, boy?" And I was like, "Why would you let the woman disrespect you like that?" And he didn't say nothing. And he was like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "That woman addressed everybody as Mr. and Mrs. And when she got to you, she just carelessly just addressed you as Kamara, and you let her do it and did nothing." And with tears in his eyes, he looked at me and said to me, "If your peers, parents, and are more educated than your parents, if they are more wealthier than your parents, if they are more successful than your parents, that's no fault of yours. But if your parents at any point in time become more successful than you, become more respectable than you, that's absolutely your fault. That is all on you."
Wow.
So the following week, I went back to school, and my teacher asked us to stand up and tell the class what we want to be when we grow up. And in her defense, that's her own way of motivating and inspiring us to kind of at least have a sense of understanding of what we want to do once we grow up, right? And
Right.
everybody stood up. I want to be a teacher, policeman, president, banker, all kind of stuff. And I stood up and I said to her, "I just want to be a mister." And
Wow.
I could imagine how confused she was. And she was like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, I want to be a mister." She's like, "You can still be like a clerk or a secretary and still be a mister, right?" I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, "Yeah, I don't know what it takes to be a clerk or secretary or engineer or doctor. I don't know none of that. All I
Mm-hmm.
know is people in this country who are educated get respected and they get addressed as Mister.
Mister.
I just want to be addressed as Mister." So that's where the story comes from, right? Because culture, if you are educated, you are Mrs. Barr.
Right.
So if you're not educated, maybe they may, if you are old enough, they may hit you with the, mm, yaba or something, right? They may
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yapa or something.
Fast. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right? But if you're educated and they have that respect for you, you are a Mister or a Mrs. So that's what that came from. That's because I never made an engineer or a doctor or somebody I can look up to at that age that can tell me what it takes to become, you know, any other profession in life. All I know is my dad was never addressed as Mr. Camara because he wasn't educated. And I vowed that I want to be that. I want to be called Mr. But
Mister.
right. So that doesn't necessarily mean I'm walking around and tripping if people don't call me Mr. Camara. I'm perfectly okay with people just calling me Saikou. I'm okay with that.
But then the story is inspirational. I mean, because say if you look at it, especially where we come from in the Gambia, most of our parents don't go to school. Like my mom, my
Right,
dad, they've never sat in a classroom.
right,
But then look at me, I had to sneak out of the house in order to go to school because at that time they were like, oh, a girl child should be married. You're not supposed to go to school. So
right,
going through that, I can relate where you're coming from.
right.
And the reason why I'm so inspired by you and probably many other people are inspired
Mhm.
is say who you have a father who hasn't gone to school, probably a mother who hasn't gone to school, but so
Right,
far you've written 3 books, if I'm correct. Is
right.
it
I'm
3?
working on the third one. It's two. I'm working on the third one right now.
Look at that.
Right,
I have one of them here, and I think you
right,
already shown one of them in the beginning of the interview.
right.
That is something. It's something that a lot of people can learn from because you could
Mhm.
have just said, "Well, my dad is not educated or my mom is not educated. Let me just go do something else and not even worry about school." But
Mhm.
you strive through it. You went through the hurdles, the struggles. Tell us some of the challenges of having a full-time job. We all know in America it can be stressful sometimes. You have
Mhm.
a full-time job, you
Mhm.
want to write a book. That's a
Mhm.
full-time job. And
Mhm.
also you're a parent, your
Mhm.
father. Tell
Mhm.
us some of the challenges you go through, I mean you went through during this period.
Um, to take it all the way back to when I was probably around the same age, around 9, 8,
Mhm.
9, 10, I started very early on helping my mom at Albert Market. Matter of fact, anyone from Banjul, if you tell them, Yasara to, Jakari Duty, Marsha Banjul, everybody knows her, right? Throughout my
Mhm.
entire life, I was born with my mom, you know, going to Albert Market and selling palm oil, right? So my
Mhm.
entire life, all I knew was my mom waking up as early as 5, 6 a.m. in the morning and don't come home until about like 8, 9 o'clock at night every day. And this has been a daily struggle. And my dad also, when he was able at the time, he was also doing the same thing, going to Albert Market. He was also a palm oil retailer. Matter of fact, he was the one who brought my mom into the trade of selling palm oil. So at a very early age, while my friends that go out and play soccer and hang out and play around us and all those kind of stuff with the neighborhood kids, I was at Albert Market selling palm oil, right? So at that very age, I had that industrious, habit in me. I knew that if we don't go to the market, we're not going to eat. If we don't go to the market, we're not going to go to school. If we don't go to the market, we're not going to have clothes on our back. To basket come, you're not going to have a new clothes. All of that. I understood at a very early age. But not only that, I also firsthand experienced the struggle of the Gambian. And when you're talking about, especially the Gambian women, right? Every day,
Mhm.
no matter how early it is, no matter how early it is, when I go to Albert Market, there are always Gambian women right there with my mom, right? And these are women that come to the market every day. They don't even know where their next meal is going to come from. If they
Right.
if they feed their kids, it comes from because of they had to labor and work hard to sell whatever little thing they're selling, whether it is some onions, peppers, whatever, cabbage, whatever vegetable they're selling. That's what they use to feed their kids and send their kids to school. I witnessed that firsthand. I witnessed families come to the market sometimes, they don't even have enough sales for the day to buy any proper meal to go and feed their kids back home, right? And I've seen grown men with tears in their eyes as vendors come to collect their money and they don't have the money to pay back, and the humiliation and the embarrassment, like watching grown men sunk their head low, hiding their face in shame. I've seen that. I've seen all of that. So I know what it means to be poor. I know what it means to be broke, and I know what it means. I remember one time I lost. When you're a kid, you go out to play soccer and you
Right.
lose your shoes.
Mhm.
One time it happened to me, and I came home, and my mom was like, "You go to school with your barefoot." So I remember going to school barefoot because I lost my shoes, and my mom says she didn't have money to buy me a new pair of shoes. So I know all of that. So it's easy for me now for me to look back and say, okay, even though I may feel like I'm in America today. Even though
Mhm.
I may have a college degree that allows me to work in corporate America and get paid well for what I do because I'm very good at what I do, but I know where I come from. And I know there are way more people that are left behind than people who came with me. So it's a responsibility for me to make sure that to go back and uplift those people, to give those people the same inspiration, to let them know that, look here, man, just because of your man, young woman, just because of that, your parents, just because of your circumstance, your environment, whatever the situation you think you're born in, doesn't have to define what you need to become in life. Look at me. And I'm saying that sharing my failures. I'm not just saying that look at all this, look at the book, I written a book now. That is not inspiring for me. The inspiring part for me is telling you my failures. Like I tell people in my 6th grade, because of I spent most of my young life in Albert Market selling palm oil and missing school days. When my
Mm-hmm.
dad is sick, my mom will sometimes spend weeks in the hospital with my dad, and I have to be the one at the Albert Market selling palm oil in place for my mom. And also when my mom has to attend whatever cultural, traditional, gente, taka, whatever it is, because
Right.
our culture demands that. You cannot be a part of the culture and not participate. And if you don't participate and you become an outcast, mom, this said can mom for you mom, do you
That's right.
so she has to participate in those things. And guess what? When she does, I have to take the L on those things. I have to take the loss. I have to be put out of school to go to the market to, be in the market to make sure that we make enough money to my other brothers and my other sisters to stay in school, right? To make sure that we make enough money so that we can buy food, so that we can take home and cook, and so that the family can eat. So I've witnessed all of those things. And when I get to the 6th grade, we did a mock exam. I failed so horribly that my teacher asked to see my mom. He came with me one day after school to go meet my mom at the market, and she told my mom, "Are you aware that Saikou missed a lot of days from school?" And she, with embarrassingly said, "Yeah, I'm aware of it." He was like, "He's not ready to sit for his common entrance exam. I will not recommend for him to sit for his common entrance exam." I remember that was one of the most humiliating days in my life, the most humbling days of my life. Because the day of the exam, I remember I was at Albert Market when I saw some of my classmates, when they were done studying for their exams, they came through Albert Market to buy kobo, lakai, whatever, bonga fish,
Mhm.
make ground sugar, whatever, you know. And I run into them and I have to run and hide because I don't want them to see me. They were in school sitting for their final examination while I was at Albert Market selling palm oil. It was really, really embarrassing for me. I would run and hide my face. And my mom witnessed those things. My mom will be ashamed for me in those situations because she knows she put me in that circumstance at that moment.
So,
Right? So I wasn't even, they didn't even think that I was good enough to sit for a common entrance. I had to sit a year later to sit my common entrance. And I did well enough to go to Gambia Methodist Academy. You're right. But those are the failures that I try to use to motivate people. Right? Getting through college, aging through college, getting a master's degree. To me, that is the easy part. Right?
right.
The hard part is those hard moments that you feel so horribly that other people can relate to, because you can inspire through success. The great San Antonio coach called Greg Popovich, an
Mhm.
NBA fan, they asked him one time, how does he motivate his players? He said he can motivate his players because it's hard to motivate his players when they are winning. And this was when they were winning. It's like it's impossible to motivate winners. What you need to do is you motivate people through failure. And that's what
So,
I try to use to tell people. That's why I'm not embarrassed. I'm not ashamed to tell people that, look, my mom was a palm oil retailer at Albert Market. I spent my entire childhood selling palm oil at Albert Market. I used to walk around with racks and dirty clothes. I used to go to school in tough days, sometimes barefoot. I'm not ashamed to sell that. I'm not ashamed to tell people that I was considered so dumb that I could even sit for my common entrance, right? But I'm going to tell you, look here, I'm working here with a master's degree. I've been invited to speak to the White House. I've been invited to speak to one of the most prestigious universities in America. I've been invited to speak to corporations, banks, and all kind of institutions in corporate America. Right? I'm a motivator. I'm also an engineer where provide consultancy to corporations in corporate America. All of those things came after I've been through crucibles of trials, after I've been through failure upon failure, after I was even not even considered good enough to sit for elementary school exam, and now I'm invited as a guest lecturer in prestigious universities to lecture to young kids. To me, that's the inspiration, that's the motivation, and these are the things that I've been through. These are how I use my past, my present to inspire other people. Now, sometimes they may come arrogant, right? But that's because I am unapologetic about. That's because I'm unapologetic about my. I'm sorry. That's
that's
because
okay.
I am unapologetic about my process. I'm apologetic about my story. I'm apologetic about my culture. I take pride in every single thing, everything I've been through. And if you ask me to do it all over again, I'm not going to change a thing because the things that I've been through are the things that made me the man I am today. If my mom was a different kind of woman, I wouldn't be the man that I am today. If my mom was like other kids' parents, if she had let me play around and do the things that other kids were doing, well, other kids' parents were well off. They could achieve that. They could what was just the right word again? They could afford to do that. They could afford to let their kids be that way. I couldn't. If my mom allowed me to be like those kids, I wouldn't grow up to be the adult that I am today. So I'm grateful for some of the struggles that I went through. I embrace every single one of them. I love every single piece of it, and I'm better for it right now.
I am super impressed. Could that be the reason why? Because I was doing a research on online before this interview, of course, and then I came across this. I don't know if you're able to see it. You're like, I saw this is a picture of a kid reading while selling bananas, and you said, I saw this picture on LinkedIn. I
Yeah.
felt this picture on so many different levels. You wouldn't understand unless you lived it.
Yes, because that's the see. This is something about Africa, right? When I wrote my Africa Through a Mirror, this book right here, and I went on a book tour, and I had other Africans from other parts of Africa, places that I've never visited, places that I've never been, and I was able to articulate their stories, like countries like Liberia, right, countries like Congo. Like I was able to articulate their stories so well, and I met people from these countries, and they asked me, "Were you there? Did you ever visit?" But this is this thing about Africa. We are all struggling. We all came from struggle. Our stories, literally, you can change Jamie's name and put Ida, and another girl will say, "That's me," right? I remember when I wrote my first book and I talked about my experiences, I had young women telling me, growing up, I used to help my mom sell ice. You know, I used to go around with ice and in buckets and on my head and helping. You know, they didn't go to Albert Market, but they were on the street selling ice. I had people telling me that I used to sell mburo nyebe and nyambe nyebe and liver with my mom at the place. That is the truth. That's our reality. And the picture of the young boy reading while selling bananas, those money is not going to his pocket. You know, I know that kid is not selling bananas because he's working for himself. He is I don't know who the kid is. I don't know who his family is, but I'm willing to bet my last dollar he is selling those bananas for his parents, right? But that was me growing up. When I have exams, I don't have the privilege of sitting home and study. I had to take my books with me to Albert Market, and while I'm between customers, I'll flip through pages, screening and reading. And this is what I was doing when I was in junior high and high school at Gambia Methodist Academy. Funny story, right? One of the funniest stories that happened one time was, I think it was in my 8th or 9th grade. So that was this lady, I go to the same school with her kids, but she didn't know this because in the morning, when she come to the market, I'm there, right? I'll go to the market early morning, right? And I used to go to school in the afternoon at Methodist Academy. I was in the afternoon shift. So in the morning, I'm at the market with my mom. She will see me at the market selling palm oil, right? And then when I go home, she's home also. She's cooking for her family. Well, I went home and then go to school. She wasn't aware of this. So on the speak and prize giving day, I think this was in my 8th or 9th grade, I'm not sure. I came first position in my class. And I was being awarded, right? And I was in the crowd, and they called my name. And I got up and received my prize, and she stood up, and we made this eye contact. Then after the ceremony, she sought me out and grabbed my arm. She's like, "Are you Yasarata's daughter? A son, I'm sorry." I'm like, "Yes, I know you. You're my customer. I sell palm oil to you every morning." She was like, I told my friends, I think I know this boy. She's like, "I thought you didn't even go to school. I thought you just one of those market boys just helping your mom. I never knew you even go to school." But that was real for me, right? So that picture was real for me. While I was going to school, I still have to take my books to the market and study and read to prepare for my tests and exams, and then go to school and compete with kids who don't have nothing to do but just study and go to school. You know, so that's why I had that deeper connection with that kid when I saw that picture.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so inspirational. Yeah, I was doing a research and I came across it. I'm like, this is interesting.
Yeah.
And if I get it correctly, it looks like you first launched your book tour in Texas sometime in 2018, if that is correct. If that's the case, why Texas?
I did not originally launch it there. The original official launching of the book, I
Mm-hmm.
did it in Gambia. That
Okay.
was on Valentine's Day 2018. But I also went to Texas for a
Mm-hmm.
book tour that was, I believe, um, this was around Labor Day.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was around Labor Day 2018, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Labor Day. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right. So Texas is just one of those Gambian communities, in my opinion. You're right. This is my opinion. I'm not saying that is the facts. In my opinion, I think Texas have the best Gambian community in America. Those people, the way they organize themselves, the way they support each other, and also, I don't mean this in any bad way to down any Gambian community, but
Mm-hmm.
also, in my opinion, they are the most educated Gambian community in
Mm-hmm.
the US, in my opinion, because all those young people there, they are all either in school or they all
Mm-hmm.
already have a college degree. So that is something very inspiring and motivating for me. They support each other. They are leadership, they are presidents, they are executive. I have a huge respect for them. They don't only get involved in Gambian matters, but they're also involved in the Texas community. They do stuff that has nothing to do with the Gambian community. They are very involved with the Texas community because you cannot come to somebody's country and somebody's state and you think
Right.
that you're only going to be for yourself. No, they don't see themselves with that. They do community service that also directly affect the everyday normal Texas people's lives. And I respect that as well. So when I had that opportunity to go and speak and do a book signing in Texas, I jumped on that opportunity and I appreciate that they gave me the opportunity to do that. It was a great experience. And not to brag, but I'm gonna say it.
Mm-hmm.
When we decided that we wanted to do a book signing there, one of the members told me, "Well, I don't want to boast your ego. I have seen you did book signing in other places, not only with Gambians but with other people.
Mm-hmm.
The book signing were huge. So, but I don't want you to come to Texas and be disappointed if you don't have a huge crowd. So
Right.
sometimes people, when it comes to things like educational stuff like books and things like that, they are not very inspired or motivated about those things. They may not show up like when you call for an what's it called, like a you should do or Wale Seka.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
That's what I understood. I'm not gonna say that I have the capability to pull the same amount of numbers. And he said,
Mm-hmm.
why I'm sharing the story. He said that the only time we had an event similar to yours where we had a huge crowd was when Halifa Saleh came. And Halifa Saleh, he said, if you know Halifa Saleh, every Gambian, irrespective of political, religious, tribe, we all have this magnitude of respect for him. So I'm
Right.
like, all right, that's the standard. I have to outdo Halifa Saleh numbers. Let's do it. And after the event, he said, "Well, we don't even have this much crowd when Halifa Saleh came." So I feel like okay, that's a bragging right to say that look
Achievement.
what I've been through. I
Mm-hmm.
look at that guy to say that I did a book signing in Texas and I have a bigger crowd than Halifa Saleh. Oh yeah, I'm gonna put that on, as a feather on my hat and brag with it. So it was fun. I enjoyed it.
That's awesome. That's definitely success right there.
Yeah.
Talking about the Gambian community, I mean, let me to ask this question. How is your work, or based on your own assessment, how is your work received by the Gambian community and other communities of color?
Um. First of all, when I do things,
Mm-hmm.
I hope my people will appreciate it, they will support it, but I don't usually direct it towards to get support from the Gambian community. I just do it, right? Like this
Mm-hmm.
show that you are doing. If the show is good, whether Gambians support it, embrace it, it doesn't matter. You
Right.
just good. People
True.
gonna people gonna just gravitate towards it. They're gonna support it, right?
True.
That's the
Mm-hmm.
same way I look at it. I feel like when Michael Jackson is making Thriller, he wasn't thinking like I want black people to support this. He just
Mm-hmm.
felt like he's the dopest pop star in the world and he's just gonna make it. I feel like when Picasso is making his art, he's not just looking. I'm just waiting for European to support it. He just know that he's the best artist that they ever stroke a brush in this world. And when Beethoven played the piano, he's not playing it because he's just looking for other people in his immediate environment to support him. He's just doing it because he feel like it's the best, and
Right.
people will gravitate towards it. So when I do stuff, for the most part, it always gives me an extra level of pride when my people support it, because there's a Nigerian saying that no matter how successful a man is, if his people do not recognize it, it's worthless. So it's
True.
always good to have that kind of, stamped and validation from your own people. But with or without it, I'm okay with it. When I do stuff, I try to do my best just to do it. Because right now my books are sold in 5 different continents. Gambians are not in everywhere, right?
True.
So black people are not everywhere. We are predominantly in Africa. But I have sold books in Asia, Europe, South America, everywhere. I've seen the numbers on Amazon. So I'm humbled by that. And I know that that's my message to people too, and Gambians. Whatever
Mhm.
you're doing, don't do it expecting Gambians to support you,
True.
right? Your competition is not, the next Gambian artist or the next Gambian writer or the next Gambian engineer. Your competition is the best engineer in the world, is the best artist in the world, is the best rapper in the world, whosoever they are. So can you outperform them? Can you outdo them? Do you have their work ethic, right? So
True.
this is the message. Do whatever you do with this relentless audacity that you want to achieve a goal that nobody like you ever did. So that's what I'll shoot for when I do stuff. But I'm humble and appreciative. The black community, whether in America here, I've
Mhm.
shown mad love for the work that I do. Matter of fact, both of my books, the first book, the foreword is written by the president for Constituency for Africa, Melvin Hood, a career diplomat who I worked with people from Reagan administration all the way to Obama administration. The only administration he haven't worked with so far is Trump administration, and we all know why, right? And my
Right.
second book, the foreword is written by Julius Garvey, Marcus Garvey's son, right?
Mhm.
The father of Pan Africanism. So the loyalty of Pan Africanism, an African American wrote my foreword for my second book. So they embraced me, they showed me that love, and I appreciate that. And then Gambians also, whether it's Gambians in Texas, whether it's Gambians in DC, Gambians all across the world, like
Mhm.
my inbox messages. Jamie, I'm telling you, it's inspiring, it's motivating for people to reach out to you and tell you, oh my God, you told my story. I cried reading your books. I laughed so hard reading your book. Those things are inspiring for me, right? For
Very.
people to tell me like, I have never read a book since I completed high school. The first book I read page to page is your book. That's enough
Wow.
for me. That's enough right there. That's enough for me. And also, recently, a young man in Sierra Leone reached out to me about, I'm not recently, about a year and a half ago or so.
Mhm.
And he said that he's inspired by me and he wants to write his own book and he wanted me to mentor him to do that. And help him through the process. He wrote his own book. This kid now is one of the most inspiring young men in Sierra Leone. He's doing
Wow.
TV shows, radio shows. He's hosting his own talking shows. He's now a motivational speaker as well, right? He's getting invited all over. He's currently the spokesperson for the Rotary Club of Sierra Leone, the entire country, not just one, but the entire Rotary Club of Sierra Leone. And he has young people gravitating towards him. And I just looked at it as, if nothing else, if I have inspired nobody else,
You've
if
impacted
one
life.
person alone is enough.
True.
So yeah, the love has been real. I felt it, and it's good. So, but another thing I would like to say, I would use this opportunity to say is, a lot of times you will find one or two people who may find whatever they don't like about you, your work, or whatever you do. And a
Mhm.
lot of times what we do is we forgone, if 1,000 people come to your wall right now and say to you, good job, you're doing a good job. And one
Mhm.
people come and say, this lady sucks. You are
True.
terrible, get out of here. You are more likely to respond to those two people who said those bad things to you than the 1,000 people who say the positive
True.
things to you, right?
I
But
agree.
that's human nature. So I do have maybe one or two people who may have their opinions or whatever, but that's fine by me. That's okay. That means that I'm human. That means that I'm not perfect. That means that I'll make mistakes in the process. And those are the people who will call it out, good or bad, whether their mind or their heart is in a good place or not, that's none of my business. But when they say it, I'm going to take a look at it and I'm going to see if it is worth my time and I feel like it's something I can improve on, I will improve on it. And if I just feel like, well, they're just indifferent, it is what it
True.
is. right? Even
Right.
God has people who don't like him, and he's the
That's true.
creator, so I'm okay with that.
And that brings me to this post that I came across when I was doing a research on you. And the fact that the reason why I actually brought this post is the fact that the way you react to it, the way you responded to it, you were not bitter. You were not using harsh words, even though, it could you could have reacted differently. I mean,
Mhm.
in a very rudely manner or something, because we act on emotions sometimes. And look at all of the way here, hold on benko boss. Sometimes
Mhm.
they get to you so bad that you just want to react badly. But
Mhm.
looking at this post, and I read it all the way to the end. I mean, can you react to it?
See, you gotta understand that. First of all, let me break it back. Let me take it
Mhm,
back a little bit. The kind of people that I look up to, right?
mhm,
They did not become great because of they fight hate with hate or they fight anger with anger, which is very, very tempting. Right?
mhm.
And I will tell people this. Even Jesus Christ, who said that turn the other cheek, at some point he has to slap some people in the marketplace. So the
True.
human natural instinct is for you to fight back when people come at you, right? But
Right.
then I also realized that a lot of times the insecurities that people go through is what prompted them to do the things that they do, right? When
Right.
think about it, for someone to look at you, they never met you, right? All they see your post on social media. All they
Mhm.
see is your pictures and the work that you do, and they have a strong opinion about you and your life, and have the audacity to go around and tell people about them. To me, that has nothing to do with you. That is
True.
them. That is their own insecurities about themselves. There is something about you that every day that you show up, you make them feel less than who they think they are. That
True.
they feel in need. The only way they can become equal or better is if they break you down. And what you need to do with those people, in my opinion, is you have to kind of uplift them with love. They don't have love in their life. They don't have people who love them enough to
Mhm.
remind them that they are worthy, to remind them that they are good, to remind them that they don't have to be bitter. They don't have to be bitter. They don't have to be the way they are. That is the way I look at it. So when people go around, now people get called, I get called all kind of names. But I also know that the culture that I come from, you gotta remember this. I said this earlier on.
Mhm.
Jamie, in our culture,
Mhm.
we have a hush hush mentality with everything. Everything is
Mhm.
water under the bridge. If you are successful, you're not supposed to let it be known. You're supposed to be quiet about it. You're not supposed to tell people. That's why no one can tell you how other people become millionaires in Gambia, right?
Mhm.
The
Mhm.
only person recently who is trying to do that is Tough with Tough Construction. But
Right.
Tough from Tough Construction, you will not hear. And Tough, I guarantee you, Tough is probably not even the top 10 most richest people in Gambia. Those people are there, but you will never hear them say a word.
That's true.
So how can you create the next Bill Gates in Gambia? How can you create the next Steve Jobs in Gambia? How can you create the next Mark Zuckerberg in Gambia? Right? How can you create the next Beyonce in Gambia? How can you create the next Oprah in Gambia? You can't, because every single time someone tried to step up to tell their story, we
Mhm.
break it down is just nañ fi ñu la ëppale te gaa ngi toog te méeguñ fi
Yeah.
benn, right?
True.
They will
True.
literally try to damn your confidence, right?
That's true.
Because we in our culture we don't train people to be outspoken. We don't allow people to express themselves freely. You have to be humble. That's the key thing. Jigéen nga jigéen du mandoo nii jigéen
Mhm.
jigéen da ngaa mandu, right? Jigéen da
Yep.
ngaa nii jigéen da ngaa nele. You're not supposed to do that, right? A young man, you're not supposed to do that. I mag suñ toogee, you're not supposed to disagree with them. No matter
Yep.
what they say, right or wrong, you're just supposed to take it the
Mhm.
way it is, right? All of
Yep.
those things. At some point, somebody has to step out of that norm. Somebody
True.
has to be the first to do it. Before 1984,
Mhm.
it was said that it is impossible that any human being can run a mile under 4 minutes.
Mhm.
The first person did it. And since then, over 40,000 people have run a mile under 4 minutes. What changed is the belief. See, when you and I are walking right now side by side,
Mhm.
one or two things are going to happen. Jamie, either you will adjust to my speed or I will adjust to your speed.
True.
As soon as we start working, in our culture, whose speed have we adjusted to? Who told us that we can move this fast? Who said that we can only walk this way? We adjusted it to a culture that we don't even know where it came from. All what we know is this how it has been done. So when you are confident, it is Princess Diana who once said this. They asked her before she died, why does she feel like she was so hated by the royal family, even though she is part of it? Why does she feel that she has so much aggression towards her, even though all she's trying to do is do good? She said something. When you have confidence to be who you are and true to yourself and love yourself and believe in yourself, it scared people.
True.
I have 3 questions for you. Where do you get that power from? Where are you going to take that power? And how are you going to use that power? Because of the unknown, it scares the hell out of them. So when people look at me, a lot of times the things that I do, they're not used to seeing that. They're not used to someone coming out and telling you that, oh, I'm going to write a book. And before they wrote the first page of their book, they published the cover of the book and said, here's the book cover. I don't even have the content yet. But watch, I'm going to write a book. People say, no, about.
Yeah.
Wait until you do it.
No aga.
That's fine. But God, everybody knows that tomorrow the sun is gonna come up.
True.
Stop it. Why can't Satan stop the sun from coming up? God is not doing his work saying that Satan doesn't like this or Satan will try to stop me. Satan's job is to try to stop God. God's job is to do what God does. My job is to do what I do. What other people think and what other people behave towards my actions or inactions is none of my business. Other people's opinion of you doesn't have to become your reality.
True.
Other people's opinions of me doesn't have to become my reality. So when they attack me with hate, the only way I can help them is to reciprocate them with love, uplift them with love, respond to them with love. And I've been called all kind of names. You know, everybody bluff. He is arrogant. He has political ambitions. They call me all kind of stuff. But that's because they have never seen nobody like me doing what I'm doing.
And it's good to be different. There's nothing wrong with that.
That's the thing. Nobody, I have, there are way more Gambians who are more eloquent than I am. When they speak, than I am, right? But they will speak because of our culture. There are Gambians who are a billion times better writers than I am, but they will not write because of we kill their confidence. There are Gambians way smarter than I am. Or there are Gambians who can buy me and everything that I own with a single paycheck, right? But no one knows how they're making their money. How can we reciprocate the Basiri Jawara? How can we reciprocate the next Halifa Saleh? How can we create the next, the next whosoever they are in Gambia when we don't talk about them? When they don't come out and tell their stories, when they don't come out and tell people their failures, their shortcomings, right? And that's another thing. Even the people who made it want to make you believe that then you're about the crucibles of trials, the late nights, the long days, the failures that they went through. Every day you wake up, you tried and you fail. Every day you went through, you tried and failed. Before you have Big TV, how many other platforms have you tried?
That's true.
Right? No one will put that part of your story. All they're going to talk about is the big TV that you have. But that is the problem. If other kids don't understand that to become Jamie and be on your own platform, you need to go through maybe 10, 20 other platforms where you're going to fail.
I agree.
To get to your own place. You got to fail your way through success. And the only way we can do that is for people with success stories to come out and tell their stories on how they went through it. I'm not saying that I'm a success story. I'm still a work in progress, right? But I refuse to let my limitations today decide what I'm going to be in this world. I'm going to use my limitations to inspire the young generation, to tell the young kids, look here, young man, you are 10 times better than me. If I have half your skills, I'll be on the same platform with the Les Browns and the Tony Robbins in this world, right? There are young poets in Gambia. When I listen to them, oh my God, mashallah. When they talk, they have a way with words. But those young poets, they're not going to go anywhere because no one is there to nurture the talent. No one is there to let those people know that you are good enough, right? No one is going to put them on a platform. You may share their video one time, they have their one hit wonder, and they're done. You will never hear from them again, right?
That's true.
But if you want to nurture those things, you need to have a special delivery program maybe on your platform. Let's say
Mhm.
all these young poets, we're going to have a poetry night every Thursday, right? We're going to have a writing competition every school year. And the students who are the best writers, we're going to help you publish your book 100% free on so and so entity, right? These are the things that we need to do to nurture it. I remember
Definitely.
when I was young growing up, when I go out to play soccer, my mom would beat me because there was nobody when I was growing up who has ever become a millionaire being a soccer player.
Mm-hmm.
The most famous soccer player at the time was Jeto Cisse. People talk about Bidi Bidi now. Bidi Bidi is the generation before us. Our
True.
time was Jeto Cisse. Jeto
Mm-hmm.
Cisse wasn't a millionaire. So nobody, no parents were letting their kids go out and play soccer. But when things change and the
Mm-hmm.
T80s and the Pamudu Giants generation come, and
Mm-hmm.
soccer can actually, in fact, generate money. You see academies all across the Gambia. Tijan Jeta didn't go to an academy.
True.
Matter of fact, when I used to sell palm oil at Albert Market, every day I used to see Tijan Jeta running. This was in elementary school, junior high. I'm not talking about the Tijan Jeta who's playing for the Scorpion. I'm talking about the Tijan Jeta, elementary school, junior high, 3 p.m., running by himself at Makati Square.
Wow.
Ask him the story if you ever get a chance to interview him. I went to the same elementary school with Tijan. He probably don't even remember me. But I remember as young as I was, one day, it was a Sunday. The
Mm-hmm.
market was at 2 p.m. 3 p.m., I was on my way home. Makati Square, the sun was blazing hot. The only person who was there running was Tijan Jade by himself. So the Tijan Jade, the professional that we saw,
Mm-hmm.
didn't start because he became a professional soccer player. It was nurtured when he was a kid.
Started somewhere. Mm-hmm.
I went to the same junior school with Pamori Jan. I remember Pamori Jan, even our silly Warga Warga games that we play.
Mm-hmm.
Pamori is the most professional young kid I've ever met in my life. This dude will come with full jersey because his brother played professionally before Denver Jan. So
Mm-hmm.
Pamori Jan will come to the soccer field with full jersey, stocks, skins, skin guards, you know, clicks, everything. While suma maas yi dañoo jël suñ tubéy yi la August yi ña tànk tubéy sa dañ ko August suñ ñambalas right? Now think about that. I am competing against this guy. I am treating as just warga warga. Yo, this is just warga warga. This dude is in full-fledged gear, looking like Cristiano Ronaldo at 7th grade. That tells me the amount of respect that he put towards his craft. I didn't have the same
Mm-hmm.
respect towards it. There is no way I could be a professional with at a professional level with Pamodi Jan because from
Mm-hmm.
day one, the amount of dedication and respect he put towards his work, I didn't put that in. I played
True.
in the same school team with Tijan Jet in elementary school. I played in the same school team with Pamodi Jan in junior school, right? And I played in the same school team with Koli, our Gambia national player, in the same high school team. But their level of dedication towards their craft is different from mine. There is no way I could have become a professional. But if you don't know their history, if you don't
Right.
know what they went through to get to where they are, you will only glorify their success. No one will talk about the struggles and the hardship and the practice and the training and the discipline that they put into their craft to be where they are. And this is why I do what I do. Now, other people are going to feel indifferent towards it. So
Mm-hmm.
others have things to say about it. That's none of my business. And if
Right.
they attack me, the matter of fact, the person who sent me the screenshot, the person was with them. They were all talking. The person didn't tell me
Talking.
what they said. All they
Yeah.
told me was what other people say. They
True.
thought it was about me. But like JD said, I heard what they say about me. But why do they trust you enough to tell you?
To tell you. Exactly.
I will leave it at that.
I like that. And aside from Sehu's professional life, Sehu also is You family oriented. That also is something. Whenever, I mean, when I was doing a research, I saw this picture of you having your daughter on your back. I can remember, I can relate. Like, I am so close to my dad. I don't know if you've been following me, but I
Right.
have this strong bond with my father. When I see this, I'm like, oh my God, that's me and my dad right there. And
Mhm.
it's like, being a profession in your own thing, you wrote books, you're everywhere, but yet you still have time for family, which some people probably they can't balance the two. What's your secret?
Man, let me tell you this story one time. This was one of the craziest things I've ever done, right?
Mm-hmm,
Um, every Saturday, I used to have this daddy-daughter ice cream date with my daughter every
mm-hmm,
Saturday. And I had just launched my first book, and I had to go on I don't want to call it worldwide. It's not a worldwide tour, but I
mm-hmm,
had to go on a 5 nation book tour, and I still have to make it back to take my daughter out for an ice cream date. I remember I flew out of the U.S., went to France, spent a day there, went to Senegal,
mm-hmm,
spent a day, went to Gambia, spent a day and a half, went to the UK, spent a day, flew to New York, spent a day, and still have to go back home to make it. I remember when I arrived at in LaGuardia Airport, the fare
mm-hmm.
detained me, and they were like, "We saw you in multiple continents, in multiple countries," and what happened was because when I got to Senegal, I
Mm-hmm,
did not flew to Gambia. I took the road, right? I drove to
mm-hmm,
Gambia, and they didn't see my passport scan at that point. They saw me left France and flew into Senegal, and then I went dark. And the next time they saw me was when I popped up in the UK
mm-hmm.
from Gambia. So they start interrogating me. What do you do? Where are you coming from? Why are you traveling to all these places? Which people did you meet? Luckily, I had pictures all over social media, so they didn't take much, right? And they will look you up. Whatever you don't want to be known or be seen, don't put it on social media. I'm
Just like I
telling
did
you,
to you
they will
now.
find it, right? So luckily, they went on social media, they looked it up, and they saw all these places that I've been. I was
Mm-hmm,
doing book tours and posting it. And they also, my luggage had books in it, my carry-on. They
mm-hmm,
went through my carry-on, they saw books. So they detained me for about 2, 3 hours. And they started interrogating me. Where are you coming from? What do you do? And I told them, I'm a African immigrant. I'm a
mm-hmm,
hustler. I hustle like an immigrant. I started playing wars with them, right? They're like, no, like, what do you do? We get all of that. What do you do? I'm like, well, I'm an engineer. They're like, no, we mean, what were you doing in those countries? You were not there as an engineer. I'm like, oh,
mm-hmm,
yeah, I'm on a book tour. They said, that's what we want to know. We saw the books in your bag. Good job, congratulations, and they let me go. But it took them 3 hours of rigorous searching because of the heavy, crazy schedule I had to get back to my daughter. This
mm-hmm,
is the thing, man. This is what I would tell people. Every kid, the most important formidable years in their lives,
mm-hmm.
they need to believe that their parents are the greatest human being in the world.
Sure.
It's good for their psychic, it's good for their confidence. I see you and your son, how playful you guys are, how
Mm-hmm.
you joke with her, joke with him, cook with him, dance with him, all of that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's important because that son, the way he's going to treat the women in his life,
Mm-hmm.
the way he will be treating you.
That's true.
The way you saw her, you saw that boy, what it means to be a good woman, what it
Mm-hmm.
means to be a mother, what it means to be a wife. When that boy grew up, those are the qualities he will start looking in women
True.
when he's growing up.
True.
My job to my daughter is not to show my daughter how to be a lady.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I cannot do that. I can only give my opinions of what I think what it means to be a lady or what is be a woman. I cannot.
Mm-hmm.
All I can do is to show my daughter what it means or how to be treated like a lady by a man. And I want to set that standard very high. When I make the promise to her that I'm going to come back this
Mhm.
Saturday, I don't care where I am in this war. I don't care how many flights I have to take. I don't care what's happening in this war. Young lady, you better believe I'm coming because I don't want you to grow up believing that men can lie to you
True.
with your father and it's okay. When I
That's
said
true.
I'm gonna, when we go out and we're supposed to go out on a date, and I'm showing you how you're supposed to be treated. As far
Mhm.
as he is, I'm pulling her chair, right? I'm strapping her in her little, kiddie chair or whatever. I'm doing all of that, right? I'm going to order her ice cream, bringing it to her. So just to give her a sense of confidence right now, to know right now that this is how a man's supposed to treat you, right?
Yep.
When we are around, we play, we joke around, right? We dance, we do all kind of crazy things.
Mhm.
Sidike Jobate is our favorite music, right?
Mhm.
Sidike Jobate come on, you better believe it's fun. I want her to feel that this is how it's supposed to be, right?
True.
It in your life supposed to be joy, it's supposed to be happy, it's supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to be anything toxic or angry or terrible or bad. So for me, it is very, very important to set the bar so high for all these young boys growing up. You
True.
better step up because I'm gonna set this bar so high for this little kid. If you don't come through it, don't spark, right?
Don't buy it like this.
No,
Eh?
no, don't spark. And that is my motto with my daughter. That's
And I
why,
like that.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
why whatever, uh, every time, every opportunity that I have to show
Mhm.
her what it means, how to be treated like a lady by a man,
Mhm.
I never miss an opportunity to do that. That is very, very important.
It
You know,
is.
yeah, and I'm also glad that a lot of women that I see also, especially
Mhm.
Gambian women, the way you all are raising your sons, is
Mhm.
different from the way we were raised.
True.
I was raised in a generation where if I go around the kitchen, my mom will have a problem with me. That's just straight up, right? So I had to learn how to cook on my own when I came
True.
to America. You
True.
people are now teaching your boys how to
Mhm.
be more domesticated early
True.
on in their lives. So when they get older, they are not waiting for the wife to cook for them. They are not waiting
Of
for
yeah.
for their sisters or anyone else to
Mhm.
do the domestic work for them. It's already naturally ingrained. Their very nature wouldn't allow that to happen. So
True.
kudos to a lot of Gambian women, and I see a lot of Gambian women that are now doing that. And you guys raise the men that are supposed to marry your daughters one day. And this is
True.
the kind of standard that I see in our society, right?
Mhm.
We want our men to automatically grow up and know how to be fathers, know how to be
Exactly.
great husbands, but we never taught them how to be there growing up.
True.
But then from day one, the day our daughters were born, this is
Mhm.
what we do. We give you a domitubab to
Yeah.
prepare you for motherhood,
Very
right?
good for motherhood.
You put a fake chin, cooking utensils. We already indoctrinating you, telling you this is how a woman's supposed to live. You're supposed to learn how to cook. I'm not saying those things are not important. They are all very, very important, right?
Mhm.
But then when we buy toys for our young boys, we buy them toys like big monster trucks, this masculine stuff, which is fine too. I'm not saying that. But what we automatically teaching boys is that your only job is to go get it.
Right.
As long as you are financially providing, that's your
Mhm.
only job. And to some extent, sometimes we don't even do that. We baby our boys, you will find 30, 40-year-old men still living at home. And their moms are still giving them excuses why
True.
they are not doing what they're supposed to do. But then automatically we expect that when these men grew up, we'll just snap our finger. The night we give them a wife, they should learn how to be a husband and a perfect
True.
husband as that. The day they have a baby, we expect them to be fathers and perfect fathers are there. No, it doesn't work that way. So I'm proud of the new Gambian generation of women, the way you are training your kids, the way you are training your sons. I'm proud of that. Keep it up.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I'm glad you acknowledge that because as we speak right now, anytime I am to step out with my son, he'll be the one to open the door for me.
Mhm.
And that tells me something. Like if he grew up tomorrow and have a wife or girlfriend, he'll be
Yeah.
able to know how to treat that person. He washes the dishes without me even asking because he knows I need to help my mom, you know?
Right,
So
right.
definitely I thank you for, acknowledging that because it's a lot of work, but it all starts from home. the,
Facts.
the the
Facts.
man you want to be with for the rest of your life has to be that boy that you started grooming since he was young.
Yeah.
So definitely I think we have a lot of work to do. It looks like we are running out of time, and I know your time is very limited, and I'm sorry
Yeah.
for taking so much of your time, but this conversation is so
It's fun.
interesting that I don't want it to end.
It's fun.
But then do you have any last words to say or anything that we haven't covered that you would like to use this platform to say before we close this interview today?
Just people, don't cut yourself short. You can one thing you can never substitute in this world
Mhm.
is effort. Nothing can replace effort in your life. Your intelligence, your beauty, your physical strength, none of that can replace the effort that you give to your everyday craft, whatever it is that you do. Never, ever, ever in your life fail to give effort to achieve your goals. Set goals. Don't be afraid to speak them out loud. Put them into the universe. If you feel like you think next year you want to start your master's degree or you want to get your PhD or you want to start a new business, put it into the universe. The universe has a way of bringing things back to us. If you speak it loud enough and you speak it into existence, it finally happens for you. Don't be afraid to say it. Matter of fact, I encourage people. If you have a goal in your life that is very, very near and dear to your heart, tell at least one person that's going to hold you accountable. That's going to tell you every day. Jamie, yawa honne dinga door sa on TV show de. Ba legi gisuma dara. Every day.
Yes.
Every day, non-stop. They will guilt you into getting up and doing something. It's very, very important. So never ever fail to give effort. Be disciplined. Be disciplined in your craft. When you wake up, when you have a phone contract with your cell phone company, they guarantee you a certain level of service that they're going to give you every day or every month. If they don't fulfill their side of the contract, you will call them and complain. My
Right.
internet is not working, but I don't have self reception in my home. You will complain if they don't give you the service that you demanded, right? This is what they promise you. If someone else had a contract or commitment with you and they fail on their commitment, you hold them accountable.
True.
How do you hold yourself accountable when you promise yourself you're going to do something? When you said, I'm going to do my dishes today before I go to bed, it's
Mhm.
11:59 on the dot. Are you about to go to sleep and the dishes are not done? Do you just shrug your shoulders and say, well, I'll do it tomorrow? Or do you say, I still have a minute left? What do you do to hold yourself accountable? Whatever it is that you said you wanted to do. I once had a young lady told me, a young man told me this. We went to college together.
Mhm.
He dropped out in our second year. A few years later, he saw me, doing all these things that I'm doing. I have a million gigs, right? And he called me and he's like, man, I'm so proud of you, bro. Like, blah, 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 blah. He's from Chicago.
Mhm.
And I was like, yeah, but you were there with me. You can still do it, Like, I know you're proud of me, whatever. I appreciate that. But if
Mhm.
you want me to truly believe that you're proud of me, you would at least try to match my hustle.
True.
Get up and try to outdo me. He's like, man, bro, I want to go back to school, man. But by the time I finish my degree, man, I'll be like, what, 35? I'm like, well, dude, whether you go back to school or not, you're still going to be 35.
True.
I'd rather be 35 with a college degree than 35 with no degree. So what are you going to do? How do you hold yourself accountable? Right? How many of you want to start a new business and you feel like, well, it's getting too old for you, right? You want to do something new. You want to try a new career. You feel like you're too old. But look here. In the next minute, if you look at your watch, if you did nothing or not, the clock is going to turn one
True.
in the next very minute. So whether you do it or not, it's gonna happen. So why not just do it? Be disciplined and always do your best, give it your best effort. And your best is good enough.
Your best is good enough. That's where we're gonna stop it at. I
Yeah.
mean, I like that because I can remember that when I first came to the US or moved to Seattle, I was like, oh, I'm not gonna do this job. I want a job where I'll be happy, a job that I like doing. I'm not just gonna pick up any job. But guess what? I put in applications and I confided in a friend and I said, you know what? I applied for a state job. I want to work in the government. He was like, no, that job is not for you. That's for people who are from here. You know, bro, like already discouraged me not to go into it. But guess what? I'm like, you know what? If this is my luck, the confidence is in me. I'm going to pursue it. Whether I get it or not, I'll keep trying.
Mm-hmm.
I keep putting in applications for 3 good years. I've been applying to work for the state. I've never even been called for interview.
Mm-hmm.
From the blues, just one day, I'm like, I'm going to try again. That was my last shot.
Mm-hmm.
I gave it a shot. And immediately, like a few days later, I got a call for an interview. I went in so confident and I went through the first phase of the interview. They're like, okay, we're going to call you if we're satisfied to go for the second round of the interview. But guess what? I got another call for the second round of the interview. I went in there. We were like, you have panelists sitting all around. I was so nervous. I'm coming from Africa. You're like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
all these people are here to interview me. But then, God being so good, I went there with my head so high. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to focus and just be confident in what I say and do. I've never had an experience to work with a government, especially in the
Yeah.
US, or
Yeah.
even have a background as a social worker or even a adult protective
Yeah.
investigator.
Right.
But I'm like, even though I don't have the degree in it, but this is a passion for me. I want to get into it and I'll make
Right.
sure I get it.
Right.
After completing that 45 minutes interview with everybody asking you questions around the table and you're done, they're like, okay, well, we will call you when we need you. I left 2, 3 days. I got a call. Oh, we have this offer for you. I was like, what? Are you sure you're not making a mistake? That was my first thing that came out of my mouth because I wasn't expecting to be selected to even go through the hiring process.
Mm-hmm.
Went through the background, and today look at me. I'm training all the new people that are being hired to go through the same thing that I went through.
Yep.
So that is definitely success. Believe in yourself and just pursue what you want or want to be in life. I mean, you can get there.
I'm proud of you. Good job.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Well, that brings us to the end of this interview today. Like I
Mm-hmm.
said, this is your Talk to Lady show coming to you live on Bigot TV. Follow us on Bigot TV and also on our YouTube channel. We're planning to get onto Roku and Netflix. It's still in process, but we will let you know when we get there. But for now, we are still with Bigot TV and also YouTube at this point. That was my guest, Mr. Saikou Camara, a Gambian. I call him Global Camara because, I mean, he got it all. And don't forget to buy the book. It's on Amazon and I think on where else?
They're on Amazon. If you're in Gambia, you can go to Timbuktu. You can get it by Timbuktu, but
Yeah.
Amazon, they are global. You can buy it anywhere in this world on Amazon. And they're on
And it will be,
Kindle, they're on Apple Books, iBooks. So yeah, you can find it on Kindle if you are like an online reader. So yeah,
mhm.
check it out. Testimony of an African Immigrant and also Africa Through a Mirror. And all you need to do is just type in my name, Saikou, Saikou Camara, Camara, and I'm the only Saikou Camara who on Amazon as an author, so it's not hard to find.
Say who with the unique name, so he's not hard
Yeah,
to find.
right.
So go there and get your copy, and you'll be inspired by what is in this book. I've read this book countless times, and now my son is actually reading it because I have 2 books. He was always taking it from me. Whenever I start reading, he'll be like, "Mom, can I?" I'm like, "Okay, now I need to get you your own." So we have 2 copies in our home, whereby he will be reading one, and I'll be reading one, and he'll be asking me questions because he's really inspired by this book. So I urge all of you out there, even parents, try to have your kids to read this book because they will learn a lot from it.
Mhm.
That being said, well, that brings us to the end of this show today, and hopefully you enjoyed it or learned 1 or 2 things from this. And
Mhm.
until we come your way again, this is your girl, Lady Ba, and my special guest, Saikou Camara, or Mr. Saikou Camara.
We often admire people's success.
Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you very much. It's your boy Saikou Speaks. I'm out.
Bye. Thank you.
We often admire people's successes, but never take the time to explore their challenges. Talk to Lady brings out the inside stories of the peaks and valleys of our daily struggles. A weekly show that features people and stories from all walks of life.
I probably don't look like I chopped cotton or picked cotton, but I did. And now this is a $500,000 probably home, up to $500,000 home.
You'll hear success stories from rags to riches that will inspire you to aspire to be great. Be the first to know, but only on Big A TV.